All right. So again, for anybody that's just come in, my name is Levi Johnson, and I'm the director of the TTU Center for Transformative Undergraduate Experiences. With me, I've got my administrator for undergraduate research and events, Miss Ryan Bain. You have all probably gotten a number of emails from her. Please be nice to her. She holds the keys to the conference in her hands, and so she's the most important person with us this evening. But then we also have a special guest from the Teaching, Learning, and Professional Development Center. And so Matt Saldaña is the lead administrator there, and he specifically focuses on a couple different projects, but the one that matters to you this evening is working on helping students and faculty develop their communication skills and being effective in presenting in different contexts. And so we've actually asked him to join us this evening and to talk about different things that you should be thinking about as you prepare for your pre-recorded and your live presentations related to the conference. And so with that, I'm going to shut up and get out of the way. If you happen to have any questions, Ryan and I will be hanging out and monitoring the chat. And so feel free to drop those in or interact with Matt's presentation directly, and we'll go from there. Thanks again for joining us.
All right. Well, thank you for that intro. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. So really happy to be here with everybody tonight. Really, mainly just excited for the opportunity to talk to some folks, particularly you folks who are out there doing this research. I mean, this is awesome. I had a team of students a couple years back that I was able to mentor at the URC. So it's truly an awesome event. And right off the bat, I just want to congratulate every single one of you for taking on this endeavor. So, all right, without further ado, again, my name is Matt. I do work for the Teaching, Learning, and Professional Development Center, otherwise known as the TLPDC. If you are curious, we are located in the library, right next to the men's rooms on the first floor. So that's kind of where we're at. But my role specifically is working on a new program that we are starting, and we're calling it the Presentation and Communication Effectiveness Program, or PACE. So that is something that we are really hoping to really focus on undergraduates, graduates, faculty on presentation skills, right? Because we do know that the more skills that you have in your tool belt, the better your presentations can be. So I'm going to run through these slides. I can certainly make these available to anybody who wants them. There's some good information here. Some of it may pertain to you, some of it may not. Do not think that this is the end all be all of information out there. There is certainly a lot of information available, but it's also great to have a spot or a place where you can go and you can easily access some information, and that's the goal for us today. So let's go ahead and get started. So our agenda, if you will, our workshop, first thing would be developing the poster presentation. Now, I know some of you are considering a poster, some of you are considering the oral presentation. So we'll kind of talk about both. What are some of the things that you might consider as far as your poster, or how are some of those things may or may not apply towards your oral presentation? So we'll talk about both. You do ultimately have up to 15 minutes to give your presentation, but sometimes you might be more comfortable with a poster. I've done both in my industry, in my field of study. So for just a quick little plug, I work, I'm a researcher for the wind energy program here at Tech. I'm working on my PhD in wind science and engineering. So I've done lots of posters and lots of presentations very recently, all of them digital, right, for obvious reasons. So I certainly understand where you're at, certainly hope that I can be a resource. Definitely, whatever you need, please feel free to reach out. Then we'll also talk a little bit about visual aids, some tips there, do's and don'ts. Tips for presenting your poster or your paper. Now, by paper, I mean your oral presentation, but how do you do that virtually, right? Right now, we're all virtual. It can be a little bit intimidating. You're not really quite sure how it will work, how your technology will work. The internet may cut out, or maybe you're using Wi-Fi. I mean, there could be any number of things that could go wrong. But what we want to do is we want to try to give you some tips for presenting that in a virtual setting. And lastly, I know that that all of these will be uploaded to YouTube. So I just, again, another self plug. I am a somewhat of a content creator. I don't content create like games or like video games, stuff like that. It's usually for like classroom stuff or research things. But I have been creating content for YouTube or placed on YouTube for at least 5 years. I did it, so I'm probably gonna age myself a little bit. I did it a long time ago before iPhones, before actual digital recordings. So my first uploaded recorded video to YouTube was actually from a cassette tape. And so we're not going to talk about how long ago that was, but just know that I've been doing it for a while. So I'll give y'all some tips on how to do that. Make sure that it's set up right, and make sure that we're actually able to view that video. Okay, so again, if this is meant to be as much interactive as much as we can. If you have a question, dump it in the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself. You know, whatever. I want this to be as interactive as possible. So please feel free to ask any questions that you may have along the way. All right, so we'll start off with what's the challenge, right? The challenge is you are allotted a very short time to present your work, right? And one of the things that we know about research is that it can take weeks, it can take months, it can even take years. Some, or we're talking decades. I mean, we're talking about a lot of time, and you're only getting a short amount of time, right? So the real question is, if you've got between 5 to 10 or 5 to 15 minutes, sorry, how do you put all of that in there? What should you leave out? What is critical that you have in there, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about this, and hopefully when we're done, you'll have a better idea of how that's going to work for you. So we want to make sure that we transmit that information effectively. Again, we have a short amount of time, right? Even if you use the entire 15 minutes, that's still a relatively short amount of time if you've been researching something for, you know, a couple of months or something like that. So how do we do that? We want to make sure that we're able to do that. We want to make sure that we share our research findings with our audience, right? And luckily, this audience for these YouTube videos are going to be folks that are in your same discipline. So that's awesome right there, because you're going to be able to talk to like-minded people, right? And so that's really going to be awesome for the feedback. And we want to make sure that they're using the language that is easily understood. Also by a variety of audience members, and this will really pertain to the 3-minute presentations, the live ones, because you're not 100% sure who's going to be in those rooms. It may be you may have your research embedded in engineering, and you may have folks who are from the humanities in your group. So again, that's a couple different ways to think about that, making sure that you're able to share those findings with your audience, and also make sure that you're using appropriate language. So again, how does this work in this virtual environment? So by now, if you're not used to using Zoom, or at least clicking on the Zoom link, you know, I'm not sure how that's possible, but for the most part, everybody's pretty comfortable with a virtual setting as far as attendance. Now, participating or being the leader or the speaker can sometimes be intimidating, particularly when you don't have an audience to look at. So one of the tricks that I would normally give people is when they're talking, like in a live setting, look for those people, and if the room is in front of you, I look for people in a third of the room on the right side, a third of the room in the middle, and then the final third on the left side. And I look for people who are interested, or at least who are giving me those visual cues, like they're paying attention, maybe they're taking some notes. And I would, you know, do something like that. I would, you know, basically focus my attention on those 3 people over and over. It's difficult to do that in a virtual setting, because right now we have a lot of names, which are great. That's fine there, but you know, again, you don't get that instant feedback. whenever you are in a virtual setting. But one thing I will always tell people is enjoy the experience. We are spending so much time behind the camera, behind the phone. It's a lot of fun, right? When you get a chance to get out there and you get to record yourself in these virtual settings, particularly when you get to talk about something that you've personally been working on, you really need to enjoy the experience. And I know it's nerve-wracking, but at the same time, enjoy the experience. That's definitely something that I definitely want y'all to walk away with. So in terms of preparation, so again, you want to make sure that you choose your materials based on the time that you do have available. So if you are choosing to go with a poster style, you probably have 3 to 5 minutes, which is kind of the general guideline best practice for a poster presentation, right? The poster is available. You have that information readily available. Most of the time in a poster presentation, people will walk up to the poster, they'll kind of look at it, and then usually they'll ask you something about, well, what does this mean? Or what are you working on? Tell me a little bit more about your poster. And so you're gonna have a very limited amount of time to talk to people about your poster. So you wanna make sure that you are aware of that time. And a good trick, this is something that I do a lot. If I'm not sure how long 3 minutes or 5 minutes or even 15 minutes is, I'll take my phone. I will usually go somewhere quiet and I will just set my alarm for 3 minutes, for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, however long I think I'm going to be on my presentation, so that I can get an idea of how long 10 minutes is, how long 5 minutes is, right? It's really easy to kind of get lost in the timing. So if you kind of have a little bit of an idea when it's just silent and you're waiting for 3 minutes or 5 minutes or however long you're thinking your presentation might be, that's really helpful because you can kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So you know how to pace your talk. Do you need to speak faster? Do you maybe need to speak a little bit slower? Are there some things that maybe you could cut out that and add something that you could emphasize? So that's one of those tips that I've used a lot, particularly whenever you're just not really sure how long that time is, right? It's something that will help you kind of figure out how long is 3 minutes actually, how long is 5 minutes. So that will help kind of set your mind in the right frame. Okay. So we also want to make sure that you rehearse and actually time your presentation. Now this works best with an audience. And that audience, we would, a good tip would obviously be that it would be a live audience or some people that can give you some feedback. But there's nothing wrong with giving your presentation to your pets. I have cats. I present to them all the time. They don't really seem all that interested, but they don't go anywhere. So that's kind of helpful. But it's nice to kind of get it out. It's also helpful whenever you actually talk about your presentation out loud. Right, that's one of those key points that I always try to emphasize to people is just say it. Just put it out there, put your slides together, put your outline together, and just say it. Right, that's really, really helpful. And on that note, don't be afraid to cut out things if you need to stay on track. Right, maybe what you think is really, really important, maybe it's not, and maybe it would be best if we just cut it out. If you start to kind of run against your time, so think about that. And that's the easiest way to do that is, again, to do your presentation, put everything together, put it all together, right? Step one, put everything together. Nothing should be taken off yet. And then start to kind of think through things. And we'll talk about some strategies on how to do that just a little bit later. And one of the things that I always tell people is don't wait until the last minute to do these things, because if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And that is a quote that I have heard for many years. It is something that I think that we don't do enough planning sometimes, and you want to make sure that that you're able to put together a great presentation. There is a competition aspect to this, and so that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm hoping that I'm giving you some tips to help you put together an awesome presentation that's going to get you some really, really high marks. So let's go ahead and jump into the poster style presentation. Again, if that's what your style is, great. Here are some tips there that will kind of help you structure that and put that together. So again, generally 3 to 5 minutes. We've seen the research that says that most posters are usually looked at, talked to whoever the poster presenter is for about that 3 to 5 minutes. So that's kind of what we're going with here. So in this particular instance, because you are going to have an audience that has a background within your field, one of the things you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to use some of that jargon, some of those acronyms, some of those things that is going to be very specific to your field. Now, one thing we would caution is that if your research has come up with a new acronym or some new jargon that's not widely available, you might want to steer clear of that. So in my industry, I talk a lot about wind turbine blades. So we always, whenever we're at a wind energy conference or renewable energy conference, we always call wind turbine blades WTB. Everybody knows what that means, right? What's your WTB research, or look at this new model of a WTB. So that is something that since we are going to have the presentation split up within folks that are going to have your background or that within that field, then it's a good opportunity to use it. But otherwise, we would caution to steer clear of those, and particularly whenever you're doing your 3 minute, because again, we don't know for sure who, or you don't know for sure who's going to be in your audience. Okay, so again, certainly something to think about. Again, when you're doing a poster, again, a short amount of time, we got to get right to the heart of the matter, right? We got to get to the point, right? So again, we want to be brief, but we always want to stay on point, but we want to get to the heart of that matter. What is the most significant thing about it? It's going to change the way, my research is going to change the way that we build cars, or it's going to change the way that we charge phones so that we're able to give phones to everybody, or something. I mean, what is the heart of the matter? And be brief and always stay on point, right? Because that will get that message across. And remember, one of the things that's awesome about this is that this is a recording, right? This is a recording, so you can do this multiple times. And in the world of content creation, if you think that your favorite content creator, your favorite YouTube creators are doing it in one take, I am here to tell you that that is unfortunately not the case. Another good friend of mine does do tech reviews, and I've watched him do his takes, and it does take pretty much the entire day, just for a short 10 to 12 minute long video. So let's see. So I'm going to pop over here to the chat. Let's see here. For our poster, how much text would you recommend having? Should most of the oral presentation explain the summary of the poster, or should most information be seen on the poster? So that's a really good question about the posters. The posters, you want to make sure, the biggest thing is that you want to make sure that you use font that's big enough to see from a distance. Now, this is going to be a little bit different just because of the kind of the format. You're going to be able to have a digital. So one of the things that Levi had talked about is, going ahead and having your poster available in some sort of PDF format so that you can, so that the audience can see it, and that's a great idea. But in terms of our poster, we want to make sure that our font is big enough so that we could see it. Like if we were going to print it out and we're going to stand maybe 6 to 7 or 8 feet away, that you'd be able to comfortably read it. I'm sorry, I don't mean to stick my hands in the camera. And so that's kind of the guideline. What we would also tell you is to make sure that there's enough white space so that you can read it. Now, as far as how much text, usually the way I do it, I'm going to kind of go a little off script here. I've got a drawing here. So down here on the bottom, what I would normally do is, if this is my poster right here, I have like my intro right here, my intro, some of my methods right here. Like, what am I doing? Like if I'm doing some sort of survey, that's what I'm going to tell them there. That's how my survey, that's how I did it. That's how I collected my data. Those are my methods there. Then I'm usually going to have a visual right here, usually a chart. I do a lot of charts because most of my research is energy economics based. So I have charts everywhere. Like I make charts for the sake of making charts. So I usually have 2 visuals there. And so the 2 visuals, you know, that can be, I could replace one of these, but I know if I have like a visual that I think is super, super key, I will put it right here in this middle spot right here. Because it's top, it's usually going to meet the eye. Boom, that's it right there. And over here on this other side here, I'm going to have some conclusions, maybe some next steps, things like that. That's where I'm going to have that. And then over here at the bottom, I'll have any acknowledgements that I need to make for whatever reason, right? So that's usually how I structure mine. I think template wise, that's usually how they look. Now, depending on how, if you want it like, you know, landscape or portrait, that may change it up a little bit, but you really want to make sure that you've got your information, your intro, what are you doing, some visuals, because that really drives the point, and then what are your conclusions, and then of course your acknowledgements. But again, the idea would be that you'd be able to read it. So I hope that answered your question. All right, so let's keep rolling. Oh, so again, awesome. So oops, now my little drawing's in the way. But again, the answer to the question, so tell me about your project, right? I'm really interested in these projects. I hope to be able to take part in this as much as possible. So I'm really excited to hear you guys tell me about those projects. But that should really be the question that you've got in the back of your mind as you're starting to put things together. Okay, so again, what would be a good poster presentation, or how would we kind of look at that? Again, how would we kind of structure that? Again, we want to make sure that we keep it short and simple as far as our presentation goes. Remember KISS, right? Keep it simple. It's a series of books, but again, it's keep it simple. So again, we should be looking at the questions that most of the folks will want to know that are looking at your posters is, what's your question? Make sure it's clear. What are you actually researching? Why should we care? What's your strategy? What did you actually do and find? And then what do you think it all means, right? And that's really when you're putting your presentation together, if you can just flow with those 6 questions there, that will usually help you get to that 3 to 5 minutes on your poster, and to a point that you basically answer any questions, and that you just have the perfect amount of time to talk about your poster. Because then the next step would be, if somebody's looking at your poster and they say, oh, well, I'm really interested in knowing more, then that opens the door to potentially, here's the paper, you know, whether it's an actual paper or link or something like that. And that could be the next step for another research opportunity. If you have time, we would suggest putting in anything that you had, any reservations. So again, there's always going to be some concern about the research that you're doing, whether it's something that you thought of or something that somebody else articulates. There could be some reservations, and sometimes if you have the time and you can answer those, then that usually is helpful. And then of course, where do you go from here? It just kind of depends. Sometimes some of the research, particularly like wind turbine blade research, it's kind of at where it's at right now, and it's not going to get any better. So if somebody were to ask me about that, I don't know, right? Couldn't tell you where wind turbine blade research is going to go. So then that may be the answer, and that's okay to say that. We're not sure yet. The technology isn't ready yet. We're not really sure where this is going to go, but here's where maybe it will potentially go. So again, most likely you probably won't get to those. Again, we would say to keep it within that 3 to 5 minutes for the poster style. Each bullet point would be about 30 to 45 seconds, and those for those top 6 there. But again, if you do have some time left over, hopefully you could get to those reservations or where do you go from here type questions. All right, so for the oral presentation, the 15 minutes. So in my experience, this, if we're talking about conference, this would be like a podium type presentation where you have an audience, and you're given, you know, a given amount of time, 15 minutes, whatever that may be. So you've got an opportunity to kind of dive deeper into some of those things. So the way that we would kind of structure that, or a way that you could structure that, particularly in the virtual setting, is breaking that up into to the 5-minute chunks. And we would break that up as so, right? We would take kind of that poster style, 3 to 5 minutes, those 6 bullet points. Maybe you can answer all 8 of them and get to the heart of that matter and explain it just a little bit more. But then you have an additional 5 minutes that I think would be great to dive deeper into that research, right? Here are 1 or 2 points that are very, very significant to this research and where we could potentially go in the very near future. So we want to drill down on those 1 or 2 points because we have that extra time. And because this is a virtual setting, one of the things that we always recommend people to do in any sort of presentation is leave some time for some Q&A. But given that these are recorded, you might have a self-posed Q&A session for the final 5 minutes or however, 2 or 3 minutes, however much time you have left. So it's always been a good practice for me when I think about going to a presentation or going to a conference, I'm giving a talk or a presentation or whatever that may be, to think of 1 or 2 questions or use a practice audience and have them give me some questions. Because you never know, they may have a question that somebody at the presenter has. So again, that is a good way to kind of close that out. Again, if you think about those kinds of those questions, like what might somebody ask me or what might not be clear, that's really going to be helpful. So again, these are just guidelines for your timing. I'm the kind of person that if you tell me I got 15 minutes, I'm going to take 15 minutes, right? 15 minutes is going to be my time. So that's how I look at it. I certainly understand if you wanted to make that shorter. But again, I would structure it in some way that I'm able to give my presentation, give my high points. I want to dive deeper into a couple more points, and then think about some questions and answers, right? Because you never know that you may actually answer a question that one of the reviewers may have, right? And so that that may be a great way to kind of segue towards the end of your to your conclusion. Best way to do that would be you may have a question about whatever, right? So and that's just a great way to kind of segue into your conclusion. So on your oral presentation, again, some more tips. Again, think simplicity, right? Again, don't overcomplicate things. We just want to make sure that it's a simple, easy to understand presentation. Because when you start to get outside of the simple reins, you start to kind of lose focus a little bit on the presentation. Okay, and again, we want to make sure that we focus on those main ideas. You can outline your presentation using your manuscript as a guide. So if you have your paper, right, you obviously break that down into sections, right? Your introduction, your methods, et cetera, et cetera. So you can use that, and that's a great way to structure your presentation. So again, some of the bigger questions, and I know I've probably talked about this a lot already, and we are actually looking at putting something together about answering the why question, the big picture questions, right? Why does your research matter, right? It matters because it will make life easier. Why should my audience care, right? I know you guys have probably heard a lot about wind energy over the past couple of weeks about how the energy infrastructure has failed and things like that. So why does the research that I do matter? Because it's energy, it's renewable energy economics. Part of what I look at is those energy economics, the cost of those wind turbines and renewable energy, facilities. What do they cost to those small towns, right? And how can they maybe make things a little bit cheaper for the city, or could it make things a little bit more expensive for the city? It's something that matters, and city governments really focus on those questions. And why should the audience care about my renewable energy economics talk? We all live in cities. We all live in maybe we live in a county, but all of that stuff does matter when we're talking about property taxes, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to get into those weeds. So, but again, that's just how you think through it. Why does that research matter, and why should your audience care? And I know I'm breaking my own rule here when using PowerPoint. 1 minute, 1 slide. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, moving on to visual aids. So visual aids are great to use, but the key here, the caveat here is when you're using PowerPoint, remember that you are the presenter, not the PowerPoint. One of the things that I see a lot of people do, particularly when they haven't had a whole lot of practice presenting, they put slides together and they just have lots of stuff on them, okay? You don't want somebody to take their attention away from the presenter and put it on the PowerPoint, right? You don't want them to read the slides behind you. You want them to focus on you as you're giving your presentation. Now, given the setting that we're in, it is a virtual setting. So what could happen is somebody could pause your video while they're watching it and read the slide. Again, that's not something you're wanting to do, because that's not one of the criteria that you're being judged on are not about being able to read a slide, right? It's about your effectiveness in communicating your talk. Okay, so a couple of other tips here. We say in general, use as little text as possible. Again, you don't want to overload it. A general kind of rule is the 6 to 8 words per line, and also the 6x6 rule, which for bullet points, 1 thought per line, no more than 6 words per line, and no more than 6 lines per slide. Now, again, that is a general guideline. It's one that has probably been researched 100 times, and it's shown that it is very effective, right? Because it keeps it minimalist, it keeps it simple, and it keeps it on point. Okay, animating your bullet points, you can certainly do that, and this is kind of what PowerPoint has done. It allows you to do a lot of really cool things, but you don't have to, right? I'm just gonna let that one sit there for a minute. Good fonts, Arial, Helvetica, and Tahoma. I'm pretty sure I said that right. But these are simple, easy to read. And one of the things that's great about these is that you can tell the distinction between the lowercase and the uppercase letters. In some cases, you use a font where it's kind of hard to distinguish between like a capital I and a lowercase L. Sometimes they're just difficult to read, particularly as you get a little further away. Some things that we would say to not do: bad and ugly fonts. Anything that's curly, complicated designs, or anything that's busy, because again, that takes away from you as the presenter. The curly fonts are probably the one thing that I do see on occasion, just because it's a different style, right? It looks really neat, but it's hard to read. It's particularly whenever you get a little further away. So some charts and some graphs, and one thing that we always talk about, or maybe that you could consider, again, assuming you have time, would be to consider a black slide, right? Or a blank slide, sorry. And that way you can refocus the attention back onto you as a presenter, right? I've been looking at this PowerPoint, trying to keep up with what you're saying, and now there's nothing for me to look at. Now I can focus back in on you, the presenter, right? And that's really, really helpful. But again, if you have time. Is Times New Roman a good font to use? That's probably in the maybe category. I've seen a lot of it being used. It's one that I use on occasion, particularly in papers. I would say to try to stick with, let's start off with the 3 that we have suggested, and then perhaps you can move on to that. Something a little bit different, but you would just really want to make sure that there's a clear distinction between the lowercase and the uppercase letters. There are so many fonts out there. I'll tell you that when I first started using Word, there were 8, and I don't want to tell you how long ago that was, but it's certainly a lot more now. So charts and graphs. This is my favorite. I love charts and graphs. PowerPoint is great for things, a lot of stuff visually. Charts, graphs, pictures, but again, some guidelines. Make them clear, right? Make sure that you label your axes. Remove those crazy grid lines, particularly if you do anything in Excel. Try to get rid of those grid lines. If you are using somebody else's researcher or somebody else's charts or graphs or their data, make sure that you cite that and stick to the 2-dimensional graphs. That is certainly helpful. So I've got a couple of examples here. So here's one. It's 2D. It's very simple. It actually comes from an article, How to Lie with Graphs, but it's just kind of an example. But it's clean, it's simple, it's easy to read, it conveys the information that I need. It's nice and simple. And even to make this in Excel, very easy, very, very easy. You could end up doing something like this as well, but it becomes a little too distracting. Yeah, it does convey the information well, but it can be a little difficult to understand. Because when I look at this, I wonder about the colors of the bars. Is there a significance to the color of the bars? Does red mean bad? Is that good or is that bad? Is the green is, there's two shades of green. Is that good or bad? I mean, it kind of gets you where people would ask you questions about your chart, and it's not doing its job. Right? We don't want people to just focus on, well, what's the blue mean or what does the green mean? That's not what we want people to focus on. We want to use it as a visual. Here it is. Boom, you're good to go. Now I have another example. Sometimes you're not able to create your own charts, right? Sometimes you grab them from somewhere. Again, I do a lot of research as far as I go to other places and grab data. So if you may find yourself in a position like this, where you have a chart. Now this is actually from last week. This is actually natural gas production, and the big dip here where the blue arrow is at is actually from, as everything was freezing. So again, a huge dip, and you'll notice it's a pretty straight line down dip in production, and all of that was out of this area. But anyway, that's beside the point. But if you do have something like this, a good tip is if you're trying to emphasize a point, put an arrow around it, or put an arrow near it, or put a circle on it, some way that it kind of grabs the attention, because you are looking at a lot of lines, a lot of trying to figure out what color is what, but I'm trying to emphasize this one particular point, right? So that's a great way to do that. If you happen to grab, now normally if I had this access to this data, what I would do is I would remove everything else except for the 2021 information, or maybe the 2020 and 2021 information, but I would certainly do that. But because I don't have this data, I just grab this from their website. I've got to work with what I got. And so that, again, you can feel free to use those, but point out those points there. Again, some more guidelines. Again, remember, just because you can does not mean you should. Don't worry about the bells and whistles. Make sure that you've got a good, clean, and simple presentation, especially with your visuals. We would generally say avoid flashing images or an image on every slide. Sound effects. If you've ever seen a presentation with sound effects, it never comes through well, so let's just skip that. Any other animation other than appear in general can sometimes also be really confusing. Embedded videos. I'm just going to tell you now, unless you are an expert at doing that, just don't. All right, because what can go wrong will go wrong. I've seen it so many times where it just doesn't work, and they just don't do it. So, some guidelines there. Again, clean, simple. When you're making your charts, when you're making your graphs, when you're making your visuals, make them clean, make them easy to read, and leave the bells and whistles for something else. For the poster, should there be a main slide with all the info? The slide of specifics. Usually your poster, if you're going to do a poster style, usually it's just the poster, so it's usually one slide. So I'll defer to Levi and Ryan on that one, on how they want to see how that one might answer that question. So some tips for your virtual presentation, right? Again, we're all doing this virtually. We're all doing YouTube. We're all going to end up doing Zoom. So what are some tips and tricks here in this arena? Practice, 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 right? Practice makes perfect. You might consider doing it live without a camera, doing it in front of a friend, in front of a mirror. That could certainly be helpful. Use the rubric as a guide, and remember the competition aspect, right? You've got something, hopefully an award in your future. So use that rubric as a guide. And I've attached a copy of the rubric at the end of this presentation. So kind of look at that too, and give you some helpful thoughts there. Enlist the real audience if you're able to. Again, that could either be on Zoom or whatever that may be, whatever you're choosing. Try to get a real audience as much as you can. Be aware of time, right? Have that internal clock, have a timer next to you, be able to see a clock or something like that. make sure that you're able to keep that time in mind. Spend some time on your opening and closing, right? Don't just like jump right into it. You know, hi, my name is, and I am a junior out of the College of Arts and Sciences, and I study biology, right? And then thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions through email or whatever that may be. Okay, be sure to spend that time on your opening and your closing. And after you record yourself, watch it. I know everybody's like, no way, I'm not watching myself. But I will tell you that you will find out so much about how good or how bad the presentation is just by watching it yourself, right? Because you'll hear things, feedback. I have a feedback loop here at my battle station. I have like multiple screens, but I also have some microphones and stuff. So I create a feedback loops depending on where stuff's at. So I want to make sure that that's not actually happening because I can't really hear it because my headphones. But I want to make sure that as the video is going on, that it's not that's not something that people are hearing. Okay. Consider a script or a storyboard. Now, don't spend a whole lot of time on a script if you've never done that before. I would probably suggest doing a storyboard because it helps you flow from one idea to the next. And what I would look at as far as a storyboard goes, I would take kind of, again, the structure of your paper, intro, methods, charts, graphs, and that's how I would storyboard. I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time there. I would just use that as organization purposes only. And background everything, whether it's noise, whether it's a setting, make sure that you've got, you can do like, we've got our backgrounds here. If you are going to do that, make sure it's an appropriate one. Usually a still picture is best, but be aware of what's behind you because that again can be distracting. A couple more tips, make sure to check your equipment. For most recording, I always use some sort of headphones, usually because the headphone has a better microphone. These are over the ear. You could use like AirPods if you have them. You could use the gamer head style, but whatever you use, make sure you test it out first, check that equipment, see what the camera looks like. Again, that kind of goes back to watching yourself once you're done. Don't get overwhelmed with pre and post production. Record, submit. That would be the one thing that I would definitely tell you to do. Remember the rubric. You don't get any extra points for having bells and whistles. You're going to get judged on the content. Relax, breathe. Okay. It's okay, right? It's okay. You got multiple takes, right? So just relax and breathe and enjoy the experience. It'll be awesome once you're done. Okay, again, you want to make sure that you're addressing appropriately, right? That is a part of the rubric. So again, I'll show you that here in just a minute. Remember, you have as many takes as you need. So take them as many as you need, right? And again, practice, 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 right? If you think it's good, try it again, okay? Look, one of the things that I'll tell you right now is you guys can probably see that in my glasses, there's like a light bar, right? I have a light that's right above my desk here. That's something that somebody may find distracting. So if there's some way that you can see that ahead of time and maybe figure out a way around that, that might be helpful, right? And also, like I kind of look over here because I have 3 screens, right? My camera's on this screen. You guys are over here. So, that can sometimes be distracting as well. So again, you won't notice these things until you watch it. So be sure to do that. Okay, so quick little video recording in YouTube. Some tips here because I know that there's probably a little bit of anxiety about this as well. So you can use pretty much any modern recording device. Again, you want to check the camera, microphone quality, and adjust as needed. Again, using headphones, using AirPods or something else that you have available. Again, practice with your lighting. That would probably be the biggest pro tip that I'll ever give you from a content creator standpoint. Like if you guys have probably may have seen those circle lights, those are awesome. If you can get a hold of one of those things are amazing. So if you can find one of those, great. But again, don't go out and buy one if you don't already have one. But again, think about the lighting, right? maybe some natural lighting, maybe a light, an actual fluorescent light, or maybe you can have a natural light. You have a window. Usually, the best thing that you want to do is have the light in front of you, right? Because the light from behind you can actually darken your face. I actually did a video not too terribly long ago where I had the window open at my home office, and you can only see half my face. And somebody commented that I look like Two-Face. Didn't appreciate that, but anyway, so that's one of those things, right? Again, I didn't watch the video after I recorded it, so again, that one was on me. Sound is important, right? Probably more important than anything else, because we need to be able to hear you, right? So if you naturally talk quiet, maybe you can speak a little bit louder. If you talk maybe a little too loud, maybe you can be quieter a little bit, or maybe move your microphone just a little bit. Typically, whenever you have these kinds of headphones or AirPods, things like that, they tend to be a little bit better as far as the noise canceling on the microphone piece. So that would be something to certainly check out. But if nothing else, adjust where you're at as far as if you're using your laptop or like a tablet. Those things have microphones and cameras in them too, but you may need to adjust how close away you are to those to find the appropriate volume. You will need a Google email to upload to YouTube. I know some people don't like having a lot of emails. Several years ago, you could use your TTU email, but that is no longer the case. So you will need some sort of Google email. It's best to record and then upload to YouTube. YouTube does have a feature that you can go live, and it's cool, but I don't recommend it because it's really kind of difficult to use if you're not experienced with it. So I would suggest using either something that you're used to, whether it's Zoom or maybe your phone or something else that you have available other than using the YouTube feature. And when you get into your settings, make sure that you change your video setting. There are 3 options. There's unlisted, there is private, and then there is public. If you leave it as unlisted, we will not be able to see it. If you make it private, we'll be able to see it as long as we have the link. And if you make it public, anybody can find it. Okay, so, but I know just from experience that a lot of people will leave it as, won't change that setting. So unlisted will be too different. We won't be able to see it. So just another piece of information there. All right, so again, here's our rubric, right? This needs to be something that if you do not have a copy of, you need to get a copy of it. You need to study this thing because this is the criteria that you need to hit on. If you have a great presentation and it has awesome pictures and an embedded video and all of this stuff, that is fantastic. And I'm happy that you're able to do all those things, but there's not really a place for it on this rubric, right? We want to make sure that we are doing our presentations towards this rubric, okay? So that should be your guide. So we have research, design, and content. Again, this should be great, but again, how do you communicate that? How do you put that out there, right? Articulating that impact, again, being able to put that out there for people, right? That's the name of the game, right? We do research and we want to put it out there, right? So how do we do that? And that's going to be key there, okay? And then on the second page, we have our visual aids. Again, that's one of the reasons why I spent so much time on those visual aids, right? We want to make sure that we've got good visual aids that are clean, that are easy to see, very, 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 very easy and simple. And I promise you, you will do very, very well there. And then the presentation quality. Again, this goes back to just practicing, rehearsing, do it again, watch it again, send it to your parents, send it to your mentors, send it to your faculty advisor, send it to somebody who can look at it and tell you simple things like, oh, you're too quiet, or you're talking too fast, or just things like that that can help you get better and better and better. You should not be able to do this in one take if you want it to be really, really good. So some final thoughts. Again, congratulations. Again, this is an undertaking, right? This is not easy to do. You're going to be put up there on these YouTube videos to talk about your research. And a lot of times, right, we like to hold that research close to our chest, and that's mine. But when you put it out there, man, that's awesome. So congratulations on that already. The hard work's done, the research is done. Now it's just about being able to communicate that. Meaningful presentations can lead to other opportunities. I've seen it happen time and time again. And any industry that you find yourself in, presentations are key, right? I'll tell you this, in any job I've ever had, presentations are going to happen. They always do. So the more practice you have, the better off you're going to do. Okay, so in terms of research, presentations are a great way to get that information out to your colleagues and to the general public, right? And right now, probably colleagues are going to be the big one, because that could lead to another opportunity for some further research. But again, if we want to spread this out to the greater public, we also want to make sure that we are able to put that out to the general public as well. And be yourself, okay? Again, these tips and tricks are meant to help you, but there are many of them that go beyond this presentation. So, you know, again, be yourself. If you put yourself into it, I guarantee you're going to be happy with the product that you've got to submit. So, and lastly, good luck, right? And so we've got, I think by my clock here, we got a few minutes left. I'll open to any questions. Again, here is my contact information, my email. If something didn't make sense, or if something you want to discuss something a little bit further, please feel free to reach out. We are here to help. We are here to be a resource for you presenters. So please, if there are any questions, certainly drop them into the chat, or feel free to, if you don't mind your voice being recorded, go ahead and throw them out there. I'm here to help. Is talking with your hands considered a distraction in a presentation? In general, we say yes, mainly because it really kind of depends on, so as you can see, I'm kind of using my hands. I'm a hand stalker, and what I always do, because I'm a hand stalker and I know this, I get a pencil or a pen or something, because I know if I have that, it reminds me that I need to put my hands back down. So if you're using your hands to present something or to point something out, not too bad. But if you are just doing this number over and over, pointing to things, pointing out stuff like that, it can be a distraction, right? Given that you're able to kind of sit down in a desk, and I've seen this before. I had to, we gave a presentation a couple of months ago to an industry board. One of the presenters was a big time hand stalker. He actually took his hands and just held on to the arms of his chair. And it worked. So they can be a distraction, but again, the thing that I would tell you is do it normal first, do it natural. If you're a handsy type talking person, check it out, record it, send it to somebody and say, hey, is there anything in here that you would change? What's distracting, right? And then that might be something that that you can get some good feedback on. Should I avoid? Unless you know how to do it. There are a lot of tutorials on how to embed videos in YouTube. Personally, I try to shy away from that unless I know it's going to work. And I would also tell you that if you are going to use videos, they need to be short. And by short, I would say probably 90 seconds long at a maximum. Because if you have 15 minutes, right, it's not going to do you any good to have a 10-minute long video, because I'm coming to the presentation to watch you talk, not the video, right? So you could certainly have them if they are something that maybe you put together that you're narrating, like here. And what comes to mind is if you're doing some sort of biology type experiment where you're taking, here is the chemical or here is the whatever, and we're putting it in this petri dish, and then this is how it's effective. Something like that I could see doing well. But again, you want to keep those relatively short. But again, when all else fails, talk to your faculty mentor, because they're going to be the ones that can really guide you the right way. Okay, what else? What else is out there? No question should be left. Quiet bunch. Man, I'm just that great, huh? No, I'm just kidding. So I'll fill up the time, I guess. So we'll go ahead and wrap up here. I will, because I am a dad. I will tell you a excuse me, a dad joke. Mainly because who doesn't like good dad jokes? Okay, so in closing, sorry, I had it like written down, but I lost the sheet of paper. Why are elevator jokes so classic and good? Nobody? Because they work on many levels. They're always going up. Hey, that's a good one. They lift you up. Man, you guys must be looking at my my notes here. Those are good. I'm gonna keep those answers. So cool. So all right. If there are, I will stop sharing my screen again. If y'all need my email or whatever, I'll send these slides out to Ryan and Levi, and feel free to use those as you need to. Okay, so thanks everybody. I appreciate y'all's time. And again, use us as a resource. We would love to help. Could you upload a 15-minute recording of your research or anyone from True? Yeah, Logan, we could probably put that in an email, send it to me, send it to the True crew, and we'll see if we can't throw something together for you. Yeah, I would certainly be happy to do something. I got some research that I've been doing that I'm just itching to get off my chest. Yeah, any way that we can help, any way that we can certainly help is absolutely what I want to do. And I do not know how to not show my screen anymore. That's fine. All right. All right. Well, I think that's it. All right. Appreciate it, everyone. Y'all have a good night, good weekend, and look forward to see what everybody puts out there.
Thank you, Matt. Daniel or Guadam, do you have any questions before we go?
No, that should be everything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just go ahead and end the meeting.